Hey, it's Jazz at Red Panda Reads, and this is my October reading wrap-up. So in the month of October, I read 5 books, one which was absolutely phenomenal and which I will put on my best books of 2020 list, and then 4 which were meh, yeah. So let's get started. So let's start with my 5-star read, and that is Here's the Beehive by Sachar. I recently stumbled across Sachar Crossan's young adult work in a charity bookshop, and that was Moonrise, and it deals with someone's family member who is on death's row and trying to reconnect with that family member while they're waiting for the verdict about whether or not they are going to be killed for the crime they may or may not have committed. And the whole book was written in verse, and it was so moving and just absolutely beautiful. And then I discovered on Shan's channel, Thoroughly Enjoyed Books, that you should definitely go and check out if you haven't checked out her channel before. She basically said that Sachar Crossan also had a adult book, Here's the Beehive, and as I'd been so moved by her young adult books, I was really keen to read it, and I am so glad I was made aware that this book existed and that I read it. So Here is the Beehive follows a woman named Anna who has been having an affair with a married man named Connor, and Connor dies, and Anna has not told anyone about this affair, so she has to deal with the loss of the person she loves on her own, and she internalizes everything, all this kind of upset, the hurt, the regret, all that is packaged with inside her, and so she's having to grieve alone, yet she cannot start that grieving process because she's not able to discuss it with anyone. And not only is she alone in this respect, but she is also the solicitor for Connor's will, and Connor's wife Rebecca is contacting our main protagonist Anna regarding Connor's death and sorting out all the kind of monetary things linked to that. And oh my god, I have done a full review on this book. Please go and check it out. As with Sachar Crossan's other book, it's written in verse. It's written from Anna's point of view, so our main protagonist, and it does chop from the past to the present a lot, with not always clearly defined marks of when it's the past or when it's the present. But the emotion that this book makes you feel so connected to Anna. You feel her confusion, you feel her grief, you feel her sadness, you feel her anger and frustration via how this book is structured, and I just think it is a masterpiece of a book. So please go and check out my review and maybe pick up a copy as well. I'd really recommend it. The next book I will talk about is a book that has been stalking me on my audio for a long time, saying, this is a book you'd probably enjoy. So I finally brought it. And that is The Foundling by Stacey. This book is a book set in Victorian London, which follows a woman named Bess who, when she had her child, had to give it up to the Foundling hospital because she didn't feel she was able to look after her child. And the Foundling hospital was a real thing, which I didn't really realise about. And in this book, Bess has earned enough money to go and get her child back 5 or 6 years later after she's left her child at the Foundling. However, her child has already been claimed, and not only that, but the person who's claimed her has given Bess's name, has given Bess's address, and also knew the exact token that Bess left with her child to identify which child was hers if she was ever to return. And so this follows the story of both Bess trying to find her child and the woman who has brought up Bess's child as her own. And on the back it says, 2 women bound by a child and a secret that will change everything. Yeah, it was an easy book to read. I liked the setting. I mostly enjoyed the characters, though I felt in some places their kind of personalities and characters were a bit rushed, considering it's quite a thick book. And I read it reasonably quickly. But I felt that I wasn't really invested in the outcome. This whole idea of a secret that will change everything. When the secret was finally revealed and everything kind of came to light, I think the author spent about 15 pages in this massive book actually kind of creating a resolution, showing kind of the place that she wanted her characters to end up in. And 15 pages is not enough to do that. The kind of development of these characters was so rushed, it felt so unrealistic at the end, and I was just left really disheartened by the ending of the book. So it wasn't bad, I just didn't really get much out of it, and I didn't really care about the outcome at all. Let me know if you disagree with me, please. Tell me why you think this book is fantastic, if it is, or whether you agree with my little gripes about it. The next book I read was a book that I read in year 8 in my English class and absolutely adored, and that is Holes by Sachar. This book follows a young guy named Stanley Yelnats who comes across a pair of trainers that literally fall from the sky into his hands. And it turns out these were very valuable trainers, and he gets arrested for stealing them and ends up going to a detention camp so he can get some character by basically digging a 5x5 hole every single day in the burning hot desert. And within this book, a mystery starts to unfold about what has previously happened in the desert and the real reason these boys are being asked to dig holes. And the thing that I did love about this book was I loved all the kind of interacting storylines and how they were entwined, and also the coincidences that happened. So I sometimes think in adult books, things can sometimes seem a bit too convenient. Two things may happen, some people might collide, and you're like, I don't really believe that. Whereas in this, there's so much of that, like so much links between different people, coincidences that happened. And yeah, I think because it's aimed at a younger audience, I kind of really enjoyed it. I kind of enjoyed almost just the silliness of that bit, among also dealing with really serious issues. So there's talks about racism in this book. There's a lot of emphasis on the importance of compassion within this book, and I think lots of kind of important things for individuals to talk about. It's a fun mystery. I'm glad I reread it. I may pick it up again in the future, but I can definitely see it's aimed at a younger audience, and I think it's a great book to study at school. So the next book is another middle grade book, and that is Murder Most Unladylike by Robin Stevens. So this is a murder mystery book set in a boarding school and has quite a lot of kind of Enid Blyton, Mallory Towers feel to it. And it follows two girls, Daisy Wells and Hazel Wong, who discover that one of the teachers has been murdered. And these girls kind of look for clues, get gossip, end up in the end working with the police, and it's a very fun murder mystery. However, it is aimed at a younger audience than me, so I don't think I'll be picking up any more in this series because there's a few things I find a bit annoying. So when Hazel and Daisy fight, I think it's kind of a little bit pathetic what they're fighting about. But to tell you the truth, I probably argued with my friends about the same things that Daisy and Hazel argued about when I was young. So that's no fault of the author, that's just a personal preference for me. It's not my type of middle grade book. I think middle grade books I do like, for example, the Nevermoor series, which is spectacular, a set in kind of a fantasy world, which for me creates a more enjoyable experience than just living a murder mystery through young people's eyes. The last book that I listened to, was a science fiction book, which was Hyperion by Dan Simmons. And I don't read much science fiction. I read my first science fiction book a couple of years ago, which was A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, and I absolutely loved it. It is kind of a slow burning, character-focused exploration through different planets, meeting different societies, and I loved it. Hyperion has some similar kind of attributes. It is about 7 pilgrims who are on a mission to go to the planet of Hyperion to visit the time tombs, where this strange, weird, terrifying creature called the Shrike lives. And each of these pilgrims are going there for their own personal reasons. Something in their past has in some way influenced them and changed their life, and therefore they're now looking for answers or resolution. And the story follows them as they travel together, and slowly each of these pilgrims reveal their story. And I initially found it quite slow paced and a little bit dull, but about a quarter of the way in, I got really hooked. And some of these stories, I just thought they were so well done. There were so many interesting science fiction ideas and ideas of kind of what the world would look like in the future, which I thought was fascinating. And I think my favourite story was that of the Scholars, and his account of his daughter who went to study the time tombs and something weird happened to her. And basically her life was reversed. So every day that went on, the girl, Rachel, would forget and would become younger. And it was terrifying and heartbreaking. I mean, imagine, say you're 23 and then 5 years later, you're 18 and you don't remember anything that happened past the point when you were 18. So if you, for example, your parents decided to move house when you were 19, but you're now 18, every morning you'd wake up being like, why am I in a different house? This isn't home. Where have you taken me? And oh my God, it's just heartbreaking. And he's on a mission to try and find like something to heal Rachel, to get the years back that she's lost, because it's both torture on her and his family, and the fact that the media follow them, and she's this kind of weird, fascinating thing that the world wants to see, but she can't understand any of that because every day she wakes up and she's forgotten everything that's happened and she's a day younger. And it's heartbreaking. And I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as much as A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, but I thought it was a good sci-fi read, and it's not something I'd necessarily be drawn to, but it was fun. So those are the 5 books I read and listened to in the month of October. I'm being more optimistic that I have more books next month that I love a little bit more, but here is the Beehive. I mean, maybe that just cancels out all the less enjoyable books. Here is the Beehive, was phenomenal and I loved it. And I'm going to finish this video by saying, check out my review on it. And don't forget to subscribe and follow me on my Instagram. Lovely to see you all and talk to you all as per usual, and have a wonderful rest of your week.